Hello everyone and welcome to another Creative Edge video blog with your host Andrew, that's me. So this time I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to do an edit in Lightroom. I do a lot of work in Photoshop, but I also do an awful lot of work in Lightroom, and it's an important part of my workflow. So I thought I would show you some stuff in that. Now it's also part of, if you sign up to the Creative Cloud photographers package, you get Lightroom, so it's worthwhile, I think, me doing some videos in Lightroom and showing you that side of the workflow. And I luckily did a photo shoot recently with an awesome cosplayer, that would be Ash Cosplay, and we did some stuff as well as we're doing kind of the studio stuff, which I would then use for composites. I also did some stuff outdoors with her in her Skyrim cosplay, and that's perfect for kind of Lightroom editing. So I'm going to show you one of those. So over into Lightroom we go. So here we are in Lightroom, and this is the image that we're going to be editing today. Now Lightroom, if you've never used it, it's actually quite simple. It looks daunting, it looks complicated, but it's really not. You start off, when you load it up, you'll go into your you have different modules across the top here, and you'll start off in your library module. And this is where you import and export your photos with these two buttons down here. So once you've loaded up Lightroom, to get your photos in, you click import. It'll bring up a dialog box where you can choose which photos you want. Click import, it'll bring them in, and then you're in here. You can also use this part of Lightroom to kind of choose the images that you want. So for instance here you can see that there's little flags on these images, and that's because I've flagged them as images that I want to use. So I'll go through, and you can either click here, or you can also see little flag as pick, then in brackets there's a P, which is the shortcut. So as you can just go through, click on an image, press P, and then that will be a pick. And then once you've gone through and you've chosen all the images you want to use, you can then use this button here. You can right click and choose like flagged only, so I'm only looking at the images that I flagged as the images that I want to use. So once you've done that, you would then head over to the develop module, and this is where you do your editing and adjustments. So it's all over here in this kind of side panel here. These are all the things that all the sliders that you need to make adjustments to your image. Over here you have your history, so you can see what you've done, and you can see I've done a few bits to this already, but I've gone back to the import so you can see what I'm going to do. There's also presets, you can create your own, as well as the Lightroom presets that are preloaded. Now if you've ever used Adobe Camera Raw in Photoshop, then you'll recognize a lot of the sliders in here. They are identical, it's just laid out differently. So here we go. I'm going to start off at the top here with some basic adjustments. I'm going to raise the shadow slider there just to bring out some of the shadows, lighten them up a little bit. I'm also going to bring down the whites and the highlights a touch there, which just evens out the image, make sure nothing kind of gets blown out. And then I'm going to raise the exposure, just bring that up a little bit, that's fine, and then bring down the blacks. So I've just raised the exposure there a little bit just to kind of get it to about the level that I want it to be, and the blacks, that just puts the black back into some of those shadows so they're not too light. So there we go with that. Now that's kind of your basic adjustments there. That kind of gets it to kind of the ballpark area where I want the kind of the exposure to be. I'm going to next bring up the sharpening a little bit, just there. I'm going to bring it up about halfway, just to sharpen the image. And then what I can do is click on this masking slider, hold down Alt or Option, and just bring this slider across. Now you can see the image starting to appear. Now what this is, you're telling Lightroom what you want to sharpen and what you don't. When it's over here and it's white, it's sharpening everything. But as you bring it over, anything that turns to black is not being sharpened. And as sharpening can introduce noise and that kind of thing, this is a great slider to know how to use, because you can just minimize that noise. So I've just brought that over, and that just takes the sharpening off kind of areas like the skin and whatnot, where we don't need it. So now we've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the mood of the picture. So I've changed the exposure, and now I'm going to change the mood, get it kind of looking the style that I want it to be. Now I want to go for kind of earthy, kind of oldie worldy kind of look. So I'm going to change the colour temperature, raise it up, and introduce some yellows in there. Okay, but that's a bit too yellow for me. I'm going to counteract that by bringing the saturation down and just take some of that colour out of it. I think that's fine just there. Again, just kind of pushing it towards that kind of oldie worldy feel. I'm also going to bring the clarity up. Now this adds kind of a bit of grit and a bit of bite to the image, which is something I do like to do. Again, I mean, this is all personal preference. This is just how I like to use Lightroom. Everyone uses it differently. Everyone has their own style. So I've raised the clarity a bit there. Now one thing I will also do is use some split toning to add a bit more kind of earthy tones into the shadows. And now I'm going to raise the hue to about 40, 39, that's fine, as that gives me a nice browny colour, and then just bring that up, and you can see just the darker areas just go a bit more towards the brown, which is perfect. So there we go, that's that. And let's have a look, what else do we want to do? Yes, I want to add in some vignetting here. Just to bring the focus into the middle of the image a little bit more. There's a number of ways of doing this. There's lens vignetting, post-crop vignetting, and then there's a radial filter over here. So the lens vignetting is nice, soft, subtle way of doing it, which is great. However, it doesn't adjust to any crops that you might do. Post-crop is a bit more intense, but it adjusts to any crops that you do, which can be useful. And then radial is more of a selective adjustment, where you choose where you want the filter to be, for the vignetting to be. But what we're going to do, I'm going to use the lens vignetting because we're not doing any cropping on this. So I'm just going to bring that down just a little bit, not too much, nice and subtle. And then I'm going to bring the midpoint, which is, you know, as I move it to the left, I don't know if you can see that, the shadow moves in towards the center of the image. Just bring it over a little bit. That's fine. I'm not going to do any post crop, but it's basically the same, as you can see, by just sliding that across. Double click to send it back to 0. And then I'm going to do some selective adjustments, because everything we've been doing has been a global adjustment. It's affected the whole image. I now want to do some selective adjustments on just her. So I'm going to use a radial filter. I'm going to go to about the center of her and drag that out to about there and just adjust it slightly. Okay, and then I'm going to drag the exposure down, and that just darkens the edges, keeps her nice and bright. So maybe she looks like she's going into a dark forest here. That's quite good. And then I'm going to click on new and get a new one, and a slightly smaller one, but slightly smaller but fatter. Bring that down, focus it on her. And this time I'm going to invert it because I want it to affect her. So I'm going to raise the exposure ever so slightly, just very gently. Just there to put some more light on her. And then I'm also going to add in some more grit. So I'm going to add in, bring the clarity up on her a bit, and the sharpness on her, just about there. I think that's fine. I think that might be there. Maybe just, let's have a look. Maybe lower. Maybe just bring the shadows in a touch, not too much. And yeah, just bring the highlights down a touch as well. Again, how about the contrast? Let's have a look at that. Yeah, there's a little bit of contrast, in there as well. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to click on the radial filter to get rid of this graphic here. There it is, gone. So I think I'm happy with that. So there we go, that'll do. That's all for today. So there you go, finished image for you, all edited in Lightroom. Now you can take images across into Photoshop, so maybe that's something I can show you next time or on a future video. If you like this and you'd like to see more Lightroom videos, then let me know. I'm more than happy to do more Lightroom videos for you. That's not a problem. Any questions, do ask. I'm happy to do demonstrations of anything that you have a question about. Not a problem at all. And finally, obviously, I just need to ask you, just please subscribe to my channel and share it on your social media with your friends, etc. If you think they'd quite like it. And that's all I ask from you. So that's great. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.